Hello everyone and welcome back. We're now ready to move on in our course, Understanding Design Thinking and People-Centered Design. So in the last section, you first of course got an introduction to design thinking and people-centered design. You understood what it means, you understood what it means for people, you understood what it means for products, you understood what it means for business, and why it is so important to focus on people in the design of products and to bring them into the fold. Now, after that, what we started with in actually creating the process or embarking on the journey is we reconsidered our problem. So we took our problem, and then typically as a team, and most times we work as a team. So in the team, we try and hash the problem, look at it, revisit it, think about it, reflect on it, push it, pull it, and then think of all the different possibilities and say, okay, what is the real problem we're trying to solve? So we did that exercise, and then we arrived at a problem definition. Perhaps a new problem definition, perhaps the same one, right? So we redefined, reframed our problem, and we arrived at that point. Now we move on to our next section. So this is what we covered yesterday. And now we move on to our next section, which is research and analysis, people and context research, and design insights and strategy. So in this section, we will cover the following 5 parts. Research with users and their contexts. So we have been in a contained environment till now. We've been thinking about the problem, it's been in our consciousness and everything, but this has all been happening inside, within us, within our team and all that. Now we are ready to go out. We're ready to go and find out that the people for whom we are designing these solutions, who are they and what are their needs and what are their limitations, what are their constraints, what is the context, what is the situation. So we, in the first subsection, we will learn how do you research with users and their contexts. The next part, question framing and conducting research, we will find out how do we actually conduct the research. When we go out to talk to people, we need to ask them questions. What should we ask them? Do we just go with a blank, just go without anything in our hands, or we just go with a blank notebook? Do we prepare questions? So those are the kinds of things we will learn over here. Then in subpart 3, user stories and themes, we will see how everything that we have found out in the field, in the users' homes, in the users' offices, wherever it is we've gone for our research, what are those stories? What are the story of things happening in users' lives? How are they currently doing what it is that we are looking to maybe redesign or design for the first time? And what are their stories? And what are the themes that are coming out of those stories? When we come up with multiple stories, then we try and understand what is it that is a theme? What is the theme for design? Okay. Then in subpart 4, we will learn how to create personas and scenarios. Personas and scenarios are the ways in which we, taking from that entire information bulk that we bring back from the field, from the users, we take it and we typify it into certain specific types of people, types of situations, types of contexts, etc. So that is personas and scenarios, where we define it as representative of the entire population. And then we arrive at insight statements, where we use these 2 or 3 different approaches that we will learn: insight statements, what are the insights from our research, then how might we questions? How do we take those insights and frame them as questions so that those questions become the impetus for us to then create solutions? And then creating a design strategy statement. What is the overall strategy of our design? So that is the plan for this section: research and analysis, people and context research, and design insights and strategy. So let's get started with research with users and contexts. So there are so many kinds of people out there. How do you understand what their needs are? Who are those people for whom we are designing? That's the first step. We need to think about who are those people. If the example that we looked at yesterday, let's say the walking stick or the service that we were designing in order to engage elderly people, who are those people? Yes, fine, they're elderly people, they're retired people, they're senior citizens, but exactly who are they? What is their mindset? What are their priorities? What do they like? What do they dislike? So that is the first thing we need to understand. Second thing is, what is their context of use of this product or service? What is the setting? What is the reason they don't like to use the walking stick? What is the kind of social situations in which they go? How do they feel, right? So those are the kind of things that we need to find out. Where is this product being used? Where is it being kept? Okay. What are they currently doing or using in this context? Right now, what are they doing? They're managing without a stick, okay? And what is it causing them? How are they struggling? What is the repercussions of it, right? So what are they currently using or doing in this context? What are some expressed and unexpressed needs? So this is very important, expressed and unexpressed. So you will ask questions and people will tell you answers, right? Now, we will learn this further when we learn how to conduct an interview. But if that's all you do, ask them questions, they give you answers, and you come away, you will have only gotten their expressed needs. You need to probe further. Perhaps while they're talking, they tell you 2 or 3 other things which are outside of the questions you've asked them. Perhaps you gave them an opening that, can you tell me, if you were to do this all over again, how would you do it? Then you give them an opening, and then they tell you their hopes, their aspirations, their expectations, their problems, their desires, etc. So that is what generally we try and find out in people and context research. Now, what's the difference between research for the sake of research and research for design? When we do research like this, research for design, where we're going out to find information about our users and their contexts and situations, we're not looking to, in general, create a report out of it in order to publish it. That's not the end goal. The end goal is to take those insights and feed it into our design. So in research for design, we're trying to understand needs and characteristics of our users, who they are, what they need, what are their profiles like, etc. We want to know what to do next. So the objective of that research is not an end, but it is a means. So the means is where, through that research and through those insights, we then have a better clarity about what to design, and it takes us further into the sphere of designing. It gives us a direction, it shows us a path, it opens up the path for us, that what should we do next. And it must inform the design that we're working on, right? It must shed light on the design that we're working on. So this research will help us come back with answers which will take us to the next step. Say, okay, I know what they need and I know what their problems are exactly, and now I'm going to create a design that I know that's the kind of thing they need. Okay, so that is research for design. It's not an end in itself. Now, what's the difference between market research and research for design, right? Market research also, they research people. However, the difference is that in market research, they do huge groups of people. They're interested in how many, what percentage of people in the southwest of India are using taxi services, for example. What percentage of people are more into liquid soaps in the state of Madhya Pradesh, so, whatever it is. So how many numbers is what they're interested in, whereas for design research, we are interested in the question why. Why, right? So for example, this might come back with that 3 million people are classified as middle class. In design research, we will have questions like, why is this segment still not using this particular kind of product? Okay, so why are they not? Why is this ecosystem not producing a product like the one we are thinking of innovating? Why has it not been designed? This is a very important question, regardless of this topic that I'm talking to you. It's a very important question for you to ask when you start designing. That why has this not, when you think you've come up with the ultimate design, a brilliant design idea, why has it not been done before? Has it been done before? These are important questions to ask, right? So that's the broad difference between market research and design research. And therefore, we work with much smaller numbers focused on qualitative aspects of the answers. So typically, this would be like a one standard question set that would be translated across different regions, whereas ours would be a customized, depending on the product, depending on the context, depending on the user type, we would customize our questions, okay? Because we want to know exactly about that particular aspect of the product or that aspect of the area that we're working on. The next thing is, who is this user? Who is this person that we need to find information from? Why can't I just answer? I'm pretty smart, I'm pretty intelligent, I know so much about so many things. Why can't I answer that question? When I say I mean you. Why can't you answer that question and say, well, I'm the user, let me answer those questions. I think elderly people feel this way. I think children react so and so way. I think, women's needs for snacky products is like this. Well, that's the first thing you need to completely jump off of, okay? And this says, know thy user, for it is not thee. That is the first important thing you must know, that you are not the user, right? You are not the user. You are definitely not the user. Anyone who is involved in the design of the product, anyone who is involved in the engineering of the product is not the user. So, if you think of a product like televisions, right? If I ask you who's not a television user, let's say in an urban setting only, you would find it laughable, right? Who is not a television user? But believe me, when I worked on these products, I found that when you're an engineer working on television products versus when you're a TV watcher, you're two very different people. So when you're an engineer, you know the nitty-gritty of the product, and those are the things we need for our that we need to be not exposed to the user, we need it to be hidden from the user. So a lot of the technical mumbo jumbo is what becomes naturally to us if we are part of the team, and then it starts reflecting in the product. So first, an important thing to remember is know your user, because it is not you, definitely not you. So who are these? These are a herd of sheep. And what do you know about sheep? So sheep typically go in herds. They go together, they follow the shepherd, they follow the dog who, I'm not getting that name, but they follow, they follow us, they bundle together and they live together, right? So remember, your users are not sheep. They are thinking people with specific needs and wants. You cannot expect that, people will just, you create something and they will just blindly follow it, particularly today. Those days are gone where we are able to push things down people's throats, and perhaps designs that are not the right ones could also be pushed through. But those days are gone now. Your users are thinking people with specific needs and wants. They are thinking people. All right, so now we need to do what is called need finding. We want to find what their needs are. And if you look at this representation, it's kind of neat, right? You can see that it's a big jumble, like a completely mangled ball of wool. And then it slowly starts to unravel until this point where it's all become clear, right? So this is what the need finding process is like. This is a nice visual representation where you start with this big jumble, and when you start, as you do more and more, you're thinking, what is going on? I cannot make sense of this. Trust me, you will make sense of it. This starts to unravel to a point when you will start to see patterns. You will start to see the fog clearing, and you'll start to see what are the real needs of those people. So what is need finding? A means by which we seek to discern, to determine the needs, desires, and vision of others, so we can explore ways, that is what we're trying to do when we design, ways to address their needs, fulfill their desires, and create ways to actualize their envisioned future. What do they see in the future? What do they see as far as their needs? What do they see as an end to their problems, right? So this is, need finding is the means to determine that, and giving us ways to explore those things so we can define. What our design is. It is a refined version of the skills and attributes we all possess that are purposed to help others as we work to design a future for their benefit. So, as I told you, design is a way of life. Design has the power to improve lives. Design has the power to make a huge difference in people's lives. So that is what this is saying. The skills and attributes that we possess that are purposed to help others as we work to design a future for their benefit. So when we design, we're not creating for ourselves, we're creating for other people. So we need to do just that. Focus on those other people. Now, many of you in organizations must be familiar with UI specifications or user specifications. And you would say, what's the difference? In a document, I'm given the UI specifications, and that is what the user needs. No, they're different. User requirements are the needs. These are fixed. This is a need that a person feels. Okay? Whereas your specifications are a particular solution. They are one solution. There may be other solutions. Through the need, you're trying to find out what are the possibilities of solutions, okay? So that we don't start with this one solution and end with that one solution, okay? All right, so as we embark on trying to find out about the people, we need to understand the landscape of people, right? Who are these people that are involved in this project? So let's say, when Uber started, what must they have done? They must have thought, who are the people that are important in their ecosystem? It is probably taxi drivers, it is customers, passengers, it is people with cars. So, and then it's people, perhaps other kinds of people who cannot drive at all, right? Who have, the ones that can drive and the ones who cannot drive are two separate segments. So that is the landscape of people, the different types of people that are a part of this ecosystem within the problem that we're trying to solve. Who is involved and what do they care about, right? What is their pain? What is the pain they are facing today because there isn't a good service that can take them from point A to point B? What is the pain that the elderly people are facing or young mothers are facing who are not able to drive? And the public transportation also is not supportive enough, right? So, in understanding the landscape of people, what we do is we create a list of key people connected with the product or service, just like I described to you. So for the elderly person, we might say, it's the elderly people, maybe his friends, his or her friends, maybe the family that he's staying with, and so on and so forth, right? And then try and represent this person, right? So draw a key trait of each person, okay? The drawing, in the act of drawing, you don't have to be a good, an artist or anything. In the act of drawing, you can see that it makes you start to think of this one as a person rather than just a tag in your computer, right? So draw a key trait of each person and then write what they may say. If they were to tell you what their problem is, if they were to say that in one sentence about the problem, what might they be saying? What is the top of mind thought that a young mother perhaps in the aspect of transportation, what is the top of mind thing she may be saying? That, I'm always so stressed when I have a deadline. Perhaps that is the top of mind thing she's saying because I don't know how I will get there on time, right? So in understanding the landscape of people, these are the three things we do, and I'm going to lead you on to a technique in this. So first is create the list of key people, draw a trait of each person, and then write what they may say if they were to say one sentence about the problem, right? And we call this a stakeholder map, which is the entire landscape of people, right? Now, this is a stakeholder map that was created for a project in which we were trying to define a reliable system for coolies and passengers in railway stations, right? So, taking that as a problem and looking at all the different characters, the different people involved, we first made that list, right? So there's the passenger, there's the people receiving the passenger, there's the leader of the coolie union, there's the complaint authority person, there's the station master, there's the coolie, of course, the union leader, the divisional traffic manager, etc., right? So these are all the people. And then what do? We try and envision what they may be saying, right? So what is the passenger saying? She is saying, I want a standardized coolie system which is reliable and upon which I can trust, okay? If you look at what the coolie is saying, he's saying, I never get paid my worth, all right? What is the person receiving the passenger saying? Oh, everything's arranged, just come home now, okay? So as you can see, these are reflections of what is the person's top of mind thought, what is on their mind, okay, in the aspect of this particular problem that you're trying to solve. So this is a stakeholder map, and if you're so inclined, you can try creating something like this. But as a first step, create your list of people, create a little representation of them. This is your coolie, this is your passenger with the bag, and then write a top of mind thought. What might these people be saying? Okay, that itself will give you a lot of thoughts about these people, who they are and what they're thinking. All right, now let's move to ethnographic research, when we actually start to interview our users and draw out information from them. Now, ethnography is a branch of one of the social sciences, comes from cultural anthropology, sociology, etc. So one of the things you must know, that design thinking, people-centered design, is an interdisciplinary field. So it, on the one hand, it has the technology, engineering, science aspects. On the other hand, it has the social science aspect, sociology, psychology. Psychology plays a big part, information science, and all of those things come to bear, right? So it originated from cultural anthropology. I'll just give you a brief about this, and then we will understand how it's adapted to the way we do this research. It is concerned with human beings. It's concerned with people, right? Research on people focuses on culture and behaviors over time. So originally, anthropologists used to study the movement of tribes, for example. When tribes moved from one place to another, and they would study them over, let's say, a period of 2 years and see what changes happened, how their behaviors, their characteristics, their way of life changed. So that is where it comes from, right? And the studies are extensive descriptions of a few people. So this is what ethnographic research is all about. Now, what are the ethnographic research techniques that we use, right? We use observation. That is, what do people do? We just observe. So if you, stand in a bus stop or say in a mall or in any railway station or public place, just observe what people are doing. It's very, very, very interesting. You will start to understand, and if you start to think what they may be thinking, why they're doing what they're doing also, it's very interesting. So this is observation, right? The next is interview, where we're interested in what people say. When you ask them questions, what do they say? And then the third is artifacts. What do people use? So let's say you're interviewing the call center operator, or you're interviewing the station master at the railway station. What kind of tools and techniques does she use? Does she have different forms? Does she use things on the computer? What are the artifacts that she uses? Now, why is it important to do all of these? Because they are different. And as we know from our experience as well, what people do, what people say, and what they say they do are sometimes very, very different things. Okay? So that is what ethnographic research is all about in the context of design thinking and people-centered design. And in case you're thinking, oh my God, how many people do I have to go and research and find? The research in this area suggests that about 6 to 8 participants of the right kind will give you very strong, good results. Okay, will give you enough data for you to move on. So when you're trying to do ethnographic research, observe. If you're in the music store, observe how people are selecting CDs. How are they selecting music? What are they doing? So you're in the field now and you're observing, right? Observe from the top maybe of a restaurant, and this is in a mall. How is the flow of food happening? How is the flow of people happening? Where are the plates going? Where is the garbage going? And how many people are alone? How many are coming as a family? Those, all kinds of things like that, right? It's very, very interesting. And of course, this is assuming that this is your area of research, right? At a checkout counter, observe what's happening in the transaction. As she's paying, what happens? What are the steps that happen? What is the interchange that happens between the customer and the clerk? In a shoe shop, observe how do people make decisions? How do they make purchases, right? So that is what it's about, observing. So this is also called field study, and you can either do pure observation, just be there and observe and not be noticed, and or you can do field interviews. You go in the field and then you do a one-on-one interview with the person. Or there's another technique called contextual inquiry. where you're asking the person, for example, there's a travel agent, and you tell the travel agent that, show me how you make a booking. And then she's going through it and showing you, and then you say, okay, why did you pick this option and not that one? So that is a contextual inquiry. So this is a very nice quote by Richard Foster. Particularly, I'm sure we've all experienced when we're children, our parents telling us, don't just stand there, do something, right? And this, in field study, it's telling us, don't just do something, stand there, just observe. Silently observe people, and in the observation of people will you get more aware and sensitized about people's needs. So let's say XYZ company has asked you to design a travel kiosk at the airport, okay? A kiosk where people can walk up and print itineraries, print e-tickets, and get online help, okay? Well, you could take this and you could immediately start creating your screens, right? Because you think you're the user. I would first see the buy a ticket, print your itinerary, blah, blah, whatever it is you pick up from here. No, that's exactly the opposite of what you should do. So perhaps you might want to go around to the airport, walk around for a week if it's necessary, as long as it's needed, and observe what people are doing. Do you see this very long line? Why is there such a long line? So what should a kiosk be doing? The kiosk should be taking this long line away, right? So how should the kiosk be designed? For whom should it be designed? For all these people, okay? So you observe, and then perhaps you start interviewing these people, okay? Start asking them questions. One example of field research that I would like to share with you is that was done at Staples several years ago. And Staples, as some of you may know, is a huge stationery chain. They sell stationery products. So this was and I'm giving you all the details just for you to get an idea of what a field research might be, right? So it was a 4-month research. It was called Life of an Order Project. Okay, so what is the life of an order project? It means that from the time the customer, place the order, what happens to that order? What are all the steps that it goes through before the final order arrives at my doorstep or on my desk, right? So it was the life of an order project. So it involved 2 things. One was internal research that was done of employees and shadowing the driver for 2 days, right? And this is, you can see these are clips of how the driver was shadowed, the person who is actually doing the delivery. So the part, once the order goes out, what happens when it's on the truck, right? What are the steps it goes through? So this is the steps that it went through in terms of the road part of the process. So shadowing is a very powerful technique as well, where you go along with the person. So the travel agent, for example, that I was telling you, perhaps she is going around to do a bunch of different jobs. You say, can I shadow you for half a day? Can I be with you, right? There's a very powerful way to learn about the job of another person. Then what is the other thing they did? They did some external research as well. They did research with business customers, right? And they spent 2 months of planning and internal research plus 1 month of external research and 1 month to communicate. So that's what the 4 months was, right? That's what this project was like. And these are the kind of questions that they were asking their customers. How do you typically gather orders from the staff? And there's a probe. You don't just stop at that. You ask them, if they're not able to think of an answer, you say, do they email you with requests? Do you send out reminders? Do you approach everyone physically? Do you order basic stuff according to the supply levels, unless someone requests otherwise? So these are the questions you're asking, right? How do you typically order office supplies? Why? Is it on phone? Is it by web? Is it the store? So these are probes. And again, when we learn how to frame questions, I will tell you that this probe is in brackets. You don't probe first. Only you have these probes ready with you. Only if the user doesn't have an answer, then do you probe, right? What types of products do you normally order through Staples? What types of products do you order through other suppliers, and why? And what is the probe? Do they ever order break room or sanitary supplies, food, plastic utensils, etc., right? These are the things. So this is like a typical field and internal research with people as well as in the field, okay? So context makes all the difference, which is why we go out in the field. We need to understand where this product lives, where this user's usage of this product is happening, yeah? So this particular application was meant to interact with the insurance company, okay? It was meant to give back information to the insurance company, and the same application was being used in the call center as well as in the doctor's office, okay? Now what was happening is the call center application was working fine. It was the identical application, but in the doctor's office, that same application used to send in insurance claims back to the insurance company. There was a big turnover of staff. People were not sticking on in the job. And on further probing, what did they find out? That this is a very interrupt-driven environment. So perhaps, you know, when this person was working, when they work at a receptionist, they're also attending to customers, they're also talking to the doctor, also answering the phone. And in the process, this particular application was not very friendly or comfortable with these interruptions. So perhaps they lost their work, perhaps, you know, they were not able to remember something they had entered earlier. So the context makes a very big difference. The same product that was very successful in this environment doesn't work in this environment. All right, I don't know if many of you have read the book by Kishore Biani called It Happened in India, and it's an excellent book. While he is not a designer, some of the things he's talked about in terms of how he researched and arrived at Big Bazaar and Food Bazaar are very, very insightful, in that he approached this very much like a design thinker, okay? So what he used to do is he used to be watching, observing and listening to customers, listening to what they're saying and keep making changes. And as you know, the supermarkets that the supermarket that was designed for India, for the kind of people in the Indian population that he wanted to bring into his supermarket, were the kind of people who were more comfortable shopping in bazaars. He wanted to bring them into his store, right? They were more comfortable with the bazaar environment, and also they were more uncomfortable being in an air-conditioned supermarket. They did not feel that they belonged there, right? So his research and his studies and a lot of introspection led to the design of Big Bazaar as it is. And he created what he called organized chaos. That sense of that bazaar, as you can see, is very apparent here, very, very different from the Western supermarket, where you have these, you know, straight, clean, sterile aisles. Whereas over here, it is a bazaar-like environment. You have the elements of a bazaar in there. Also, you know, in the way the vegetable shopping area, you can see the tokri over here. You can see how it's all placed, you know, in the bins and everything. This all gives the comfort level to the user who we are targeting, who we are trying to bring in, who is going to be a part of the design environment that we're creating, okay? And with that came the tagline, which was a brilliant tagline at that time, called Naye India Ka Bazaar, okay? So this is how the new generation of India shops, right? That is what he's trying to say. Very, very interesting approach. So this is an example that I'm showing you on a project that I worked on for the Pune Municipal Corporation, right? And we were trying to help them with their public-facing websites. And the starting point was, you know, I wonder what these people come to the website for. Why? So before we went to the website, we said, okay, what do people come to the corporation to find out? How do we find that out? We were really wondering, how do we gather the information? What are people interested in when they come to the corporation, right? So what we did is we went to the reception of the corporation building and we just hung about over there. We just stood near the reception. And in a very short time, we arrived with all these questions. This is what people were coming and asking. Where do I pay property tax? Where do I get a stall license? Where do I get a map for a construction area? How do I make a change in the birth death registration? Where and whom do I apply for RTI to a particular department? So these were all the things that people were asking. These are very strong insights in how we should design this public-facing portal that we were looking to embark on, right? So I want to share with you some interesting stories about some people and how they actually did this kind of research. So this is a picture of Henry Dreyfuss, who is a very, very well-known designer. And he is the designer who was responsible for working with Singer sewing machine company. He worked on that product. He became very famous for the Honeywell thermostat. You know, Honeywell had a round thermostat that lived for years and years and years, and it's, you know, it still lives. But he was the person who designed it, and many others. So now when Henry Dreyfuss was tasked with designing for Singer, when Singer Sewing Machine Company approached him to design for them, what is the first thing that he did? He and his team went and enrolled in stitching classes. They wanted to understand, how do people learn stitching? How do people do stitching? How do people feel stitching? What does the machine do? What does it not do? So in order to understand that product, he put himself in the shoes of the user, okay? So very, very important to put yourself in the shoes of the user. This was the Hershey chocolate store in New York City. And the design team, what they did was, in order to figure out how it should work for children, because they were really trying to appeal to children, they got into the user's shoes. And what did they do? They, the entire team, they got on their hands and knees and they spent the entire day on their knees walking around the pavements and around that general area. And what they were trying to do is to see and understand, how does the world look like from a 3-foot view, from a child's view, right? So that is getting into the user's shoes. As much as you can, you know, if you can first-hand experience your user's context, your user's environment, it'll be really helpful for you. This is a designer called Patricia Moore. And Patricia had she started working on products for the elderly, for people with some kind of physical disabilities. And she used to get into this costume. She used to get and wear the kind of things that would restrict her movements, make her not just look but also feel like a really old person. And she did this for a long while, and she actually became one of the leading people with expertise in the area of design for the elderly, and she came up with some really good designs. But she spent an extended period of time dressed like this, and also wearing you know, equipment and things that would make her feel like an elderly person. So you do get things called empathy suits, you get pregnancy suits, so that make you feel like the person, like for example a person who is pregnant. Or you get these vision reducing goggles which you wear, and then you feel what does the eyesight look like to a person who has limited vision, or gloves that limit your motor control. So these kind of things are available that help you understand how does it feel. Get yourself in the user's shoes. So recently I met with an upcoming actor who was looking to become an actor, and one of the things he was doing, trained by his mentor, he was going around and exactly doing this. So he spent half a day in the petrol pump, and he was filling the cars with petrol. He was doing the billing. So he spent half a day then half a day he went and spent in a vegetable shop where he sat down and he tried to sell the vegetables himself. And the kind of exposure he got and the experience he acquired, I'm sure, is like none other. As a designer, this is part of the whole empathy exercise. You need to feel what your user feels. How would you otherwise design the best for them? This is one of the best ways to do it. So be the customer. Take a support call. Go to your support center, your customer service center, and then be there at the end of the line when a customer calls, and maybe it's an upset customer. See what it feels like. See the kinds of things they ask. Go to the warehouse and pack an order. Try and see what is involved in actually packaging an order and trying to get it out to the customer. Unpack and set up your own product, or watch someone close to you unpack it, right? It's invaluable, the kind of feedback and information and inputs that that's going to give you. You'll quickly discover, if you are able to be the customer, you'll quickly discover things about them and their experience that you would otherwise have never known. And ideally, those of you who work in offices, working on products, working on designs that currently do not bring the user and the customer into the fold, try and make this a regular event on your calendar. When I was working in in one of the companies, I used to keep a list of customers in my drawer, and every afternoon, not every afternoon, every so often in the afternoon, I'd just get in the car and go and visit a customer site. 1 hour at a customer site can be extremely, extremely valuable. So as you go through this exercise and investigating users and trying to understand their needs and everything, you will find that certain user types are emerging. Who are the types of users? Maybe the ones who are eager to do something, the ones who are intimidated, the ones who are the sheep, like the followers. So those kinds of things. And what I would like to emphasize at this point is that this is not a marketing type of segmentation that we do. This is, I'd like to explain to you the marketing versus the role and goal based segmentation that we do in design. Role and goal based segmentation. So a marketing segmentation might be something like this, where you have a senior citizen, housewife, teenager, or you might have middle class, low income, wealthy. That gives us zero insights for design. Whereas if we have a group like this, when we are studying different kind of people related to movies, okay, we have moviegoers, people who are who go to see movies, a film industry person who's a professional in the industry, a review writer who writes movie reviews, right? So if you notice, a moviegoer could be middle class, could be a housewife, could be any of those, right? A film industry person could be either of these, senior citizen, middle class, whatever it is. Review writer likewise. So they don't fit into one of these categories, but what brings them all together is the fact that they are an avid moviegoer, is the fact that they all write reviews for the movies. So it is role and goal based segmentation. It is based on their role and their goal, okay? And when we know what we need to know and about this review writer, it gives us insights for design. It gives us information about how to design for the benefit of this review writer. All right. Now, you have done, research with users. You have gone out in the field perhaps, you have spent time there, you have come back with information. So that is one critical part of the research and the most important part, getting in the user's shoes, going out there in the field and actually doing all of this. Now there's also a lot of literature, very big bodies of literature that are available that have done huge amounts of research on how people behave in interacting with products. So it might be a good idea for you at that point to also look at what are the different things available. Let's say you're working on something related to e-commerce, or you're working on something related to banking. So what exists as far as banking users' behavior? What exists as far as e-commerce users' behavior? So these are a couple of sites that I have shared with you. And I avidly follow Nielsen Norman Group. Jacob Nielsen and Donald Norman, they are the two really very big and senior people in this field. And there's UX Matters and 52 Weeks of UX, etc. There are many others. So it would be good for you to look through these and see what kind of research exists. And of course, there's lots of books. One of the books that I'm going to now present to you little excerpts of user research from is called Don't Make Me Think by Steve Krug. Now, this is a nice thin little book and I would encourage you to read it if you get interested and passionate about this subject. He talks about it as a common sense approach to web usability, but believe me, a lot of the principles really apply to design in general. I think this is a very, very telling title as far as human-centered design and people-centered design, design thinking goes. Don't make me think. Don't make me think. This is the user telling you, the designer, don't make me think. Make it obvious to me what you want to convey. Make it intuitive for me so that I don't have to struggle. When I look at the design, I know what I'm supposed to do. Okay, so let's look at a couple of excerpts from this. People behaviors. How do users read? Okay, so this is what we as a designer imagine that the user is doing. They're reading from top to bottom, left to right, everything that's on this page, and then they pause for reflection. They think, oh, let me think of this, let me think of that, and finally they click on a carefully chosen link, which is of course the right link. Well, what happens in reality? This is what happens in reality. Zip, zip, jump here, jump there, look for something, look around feverishly. If there's anything interesting or vaguely looks like what you think it is and it looks clickable, click on it. And as soon as you find a halfway decent match, just click on it. If it doesn't work, click the back button and come back again. So that is how users actually behave. They do not behave this way. This is, even though this is the way we would love if they behave, that is not how they behave. Okay, so don't expect people to read everything or even half of what you write. Okay, so without all that, how will you grab their attention? How will you get them to get through what they need to get through in the design that you're creating? How we use websites. What designers build, you know, this neat little thing, and then what does the user see? Everything is all blurry and they're just noticing a few things that they are interested in, and he says, I just want to buy a ticket. I'm not interested in reading about all offers, this, that and everything. I just want to buy a ticket. How do I check my frequent flyer miles? Look here, look there, can't find it, boom, close the thing and leave. So this is how people behave, okay? What we build and we think that they will earnestly and completely and full detail follow, this is how they actually behave. So users are whizzing by, and one of the things he says is that it is like a billboard. So let's say you're on the highway and you're driving on the highway and there's a billboard coming, right? how much of that billboard do you notice? Perhaps the heading, perhaps the picture that's on there. So think of your design in that way. Think of it like a billboard, that if someone's passing by, at a quick glance, what can they get? And if what they get is enough to help them do what they need to do, then you have succeeded. How do we watch TV? This is a research that was done. And it says that TV viewers like to lean back and passively watch TV rather than sit forward to interact with their TV. A TV is not a computer, right? Even if there's a computer in the TV right now, there's so much programs and so much information and so much decision making, but still, when people are watching TV, they like to be sitting back and not sit forward. Designs requiring them to be actively engaged is therefore unnatural. Right? They like to lean back, they don't want to sit forward. So this is how people behave. So as designers, we need to understand that and we need to design accordingly. Good design principles from Steve Krug, a couple of principles that I'll share with you. Here's an example that says, there's a button called jobs. I don't need to think. Don't make me think. Jobs is jobs is jobs. There's no ambiguity there. Here is employment opportunities. Okay, so I do a couple of milliseconds of thought and then I say, oh, that probably means jobs. Okay, click. Here's one that says Joborama, trying to be really cute and really funny. What happens to the user? It could be jobs, but it sounds more than that. Should I click or should I keep looking? You can see that the user is thinking. They're having to go through a thought process. So this is the ideal, right? So among design principles, what is fact of life number one? We don't read, we just scan. Quickly scan, especially in today's information age. People are so overloaded with information, they're reading in depth less and less and less. Fact of life number two, we don't choose the best option, but the first reasonable match, the first thing that looks kind of like around what we're looking for, we will pick that. Fact of life number three, we don't figure out how things work. We just muddle through them. We don't want to sit and think and analyze, we just muddle through it. So since we don't bother to spend the time to figure out how things work and we just muddle through somehow, we need to design better billboards, right? That is what it means. As I told you, when you're driving through the highway, what do we see? Just the glimpse of what we get out of the billboard as we're whizzing past it, that is the approach we need to take for design. That what is the most important information and what is the next most important information, etc. So good design principles mean no question marks. Don't make me think. Why? Because question marks take time. They add to our cognitive load. Cognitive load is the load that we have when we have a need to think, right? That is the cognitive load. More time spent thinking is greater cognitive load. So no question marks. Where am I? Where should I begin? Where did they put that? Why did they call it that? Etc., etc. So good designs have to work at a glance. So user's reality is a billboard going 60 miles an hour, right? So this is how you need to position the information. Very important, big and right on top, a little less important, next, and nowhere near as important, right down there. So if you're walking past the billboard, you'll be able to read everything. But if you're whizzing past it, rushing past it, maybe you'll see this much, okay?